A distress call went out. Only the Deathworlders responded. Stars flickered like distant candles, and the soft hum of machinery was the only sound the few remaining humans could hear. Once, the colony had been bustling with scientists, engineers, and miners. Now it was a ghostly shell, filled with shadows and the lingering echo of panic. Commander Alara Dune paced the control room, her boots clicking against the metallic floor. The alarm sirens had faded hours ago, leaving a tense silence that pressed against her chest. On the monitors, she could see the remnants of their once proud ships, twisted metal drifting through space, flames slowly extinguishing. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and alone. Ilara pressed a trembling hand to the console. The colony's distress beacon had already been activated. She had done everything by the book, sent the coordinates, transmitted the emergency signal, repeated it over every frequency. And yet, the answer she longed for had not come. The galaxy was silent. "Any response?" she asked, her voice tight. Lieutenant Corrin, a young communications officer, shook his head. "Nothing, Commander. The signal's out. Multiple species have received it, but no one is responding. It's like we're screaming into the void." Ilara closed her eyes for a moment, swallowing hard. It was unthinkable, but she had to consider it. The colony might truly be alone. Alarms blared again suddenly, jolting the few survivors from their despair. "Incoming!" shouted a voice over the intercom. Red lights flashed as the proximity sensors on the monitors went wild. "Aliens?" Corrin asked, dread in his voice. Ilara's jaw tightened. "They found us. Brace for impact. Prepare defensive turrets." Outside, the colony's perimeter was a battleground of fire and shadows. Alien ships, sleek and alien in design, circled like predators, their energy weapons cutting bright lines through the darkness. The humans on Erebus 7 scrambled to man the remaining defenses. Panic and fear were thick, but training and desperation kept them moving. The first salvo hit, shattering a communications tower and sending a shower of sparks across the colony's courtyard. The humans ducked, returning fire as best as they could. Their weapons were outdated, barely enough to scratch the alien shields, but they fought anyway. Each shot was a refusal to surrender. Then, as suddenly as the battle had erupted, the sensors picked up movement at the edge of the system. A fleet approached, a shape unlike anything the humans had expected. Sleek, armored ships, but unmistakably human in design. Yet these humans were different. The markings on the hull bore the emblem of the Deathworlders. Humans evolved on planets so harsh that survival itself had become a weapon. "They're here," Ilara whispered, disbelief and relief warring in her voice. The Deathworlder fleet did not hesitate. They dropped from hyperspace with precision, deploying ships directly into the path of the alien attackers. Their weapons fired with lethal accuracy, tearing through the enemy lines. The alien ships faltered, confused by the sudden and brutal assault. Inside the colony, Ilara and her team watched as the Deathworlders landed. Figures emerged from armored transports, tall, muscular humans, their skin tanned and scarred from harsh worlds, their eyes sharp and calculating. They moved with purpose, every step a promise of survival. One of them, a woman with silver streaks in her dark hair, raised her hand. "Stand down," she commanded, her voice carrying both authority and an unspoken warning. The aliens hesitated, and in that pause the Deathworlders struck. The humans inside the colony felt a strange mix of awe and fear. These were not the rescuers they had imagined. These were hunters, predators forged by environments that would have killed anyone less resilient. Yet they were here for them. Ilara stepped forward, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. We're the survivors of Erebus 7. Thank you for coming." The Deathworlder commander's eyes scanned her quickly. "You called for help. You are alive. That is enough," she said. Then, without another word, she led her team into the fray. The battle outside was chaotic and intense. The alien fleet attempted to regroup, but the Deathworlders were relentless. They moved like a storm, using the colony's ruined structures to their advantage. Some scaled the sides of towers, while others used grappling hooks to leap between ships. Their strategies were unlike anything the humans had ever seen, quick, efficient, and deadly. From her vantage point in the control room, Ilara could see the aliens beginning to retreat. The Deathworlders were not just strong, they were smart, adaptive, and utterly unyielding. It was a terrifying beauty, watching humans fight humans who had been shaped by worlds that seemed impossible to survive. As the last alien ship disengaged and fled, silence settled over the battlefield once more. Smoke rose from wrecked vehicles, and sparks flickered from damaged equipment. The Deathworlders stood among the debris, unbroken, scanning the horizon for any remaining threats. One of them, a younger Deathworlder with a scar running across his face, approached Alara. "You are safe for now, but do not think this is the end," he warned. "The galaxy is full of hunters, not all of them will be stopped so easily." Alara nodded, her chest tight. She knew he was right. Their colony had survived this attack, but the universe was a dangerous place. And yet, for the first time in days, she felt a spark of hope. The Deathworlders began securing the colony, repairing defenses, and setting traps to prevent another attack. Their methods were harsh and direct, but effective. They did not coddle the humans. They trained them, forcing them to adapt, to survive, and to fight alongside them. For the first time, Alara saw what true resilience looked like. It was not polite, it was not easy, and it was often brutal, but it worked. The humans of Erebus 7, fragile and scared as they were, began to learn. They began to understand that survival was more than hope. It was action, strategy, and strength. At night, the survivors gathered in the dim light of the mess hall. They shared stories of Earth, of their families, and of the colonies they had left behind. The Deathworlders joined them, listening quietly, speaking only when necessary. Their presence was intimidating, but also strangely reassuring. Alara sat quietly, thinking about the day's events. The distress call had been a simple signal, a plea for help in a universe that often ignored such pleas. And yet it had brought the Deathworlders, not the delicate diplomats or the polite fleets of other species. The ones who answered were the strongest, the toughest, the humans who had been tempered by worlds that would have killed most others. In that moment, she realized something profound. Humanity was not defined by comfort or ease. It was defined by survival, by the ability to face impossible odds and endure. And now, the Deathworlders had shown them that humans could rise not just to survive, but to dominate, even in the darkest reaches of space. The colony had survived today, but the universe was far from safe. Tomorrow, they would begin rebuilding, learning, and preparing. And somewhere in the stars, other threats were waiting. Yet, for the first time, Alara did not feel fear. She felt determination. Because in the heart of the void, they had found allies who were as relentless, as unyielding, and as human as they were. And together, they might just be unstoppable. The morning light of Erebus 7 was harsh and pale, filtering through the damaged walls of the colony like thin silver knives. Smoke still lingered over the ruins, and the air smelled of burnt metal and scorched stone. The survivors moved carefully among the wreckage, inspecting their damaged homes, shattered laboratories, and twisted vehicles. Even after the Deathworlders' fierce battle, the alien threat had not completely vanished. Pockets of danger lingered in the shadows. Commander Alara Dune walked with a measured pace, her eyes scanning the perimeter. The Deathworlders had begun setting up temporary fortifications, using scraps of the colony's destroyed structures, reinforced by their own alien tech tools. Their methods were unconventional, almost brutal in approach, but undeniably effective. Where humans had hesitated or doubted, the Deathworlders acted. Every movement they made seemed calculated to survive, and to make everyone around them survive as well. Lieutenant Corrin trailed behind, nervously glancing at the armored humans. "Commander, they're different, so different. Do you think we can really learn from them?" Alara didn't answer immediately. She watched a Deathworlder lift a heavy, twisted beam single-handedly and wedge it into the rubble as a defensive barrier. "Corrin," she said finally, "look carefully. They are not ordinary humans. They survived conditions that would have killed most people. And right now, they're showing us what it means to fight, to adapt. We may not understand their ways yet, but we will if we want to survive." The Deathworlder commander, the woman with silver-streaked hair, approached them. Her boots made no sound on the metal floor. She looked at Alara with a piercing gaze. "You survived today because of luck and because we arrived," she said bluntly. "Tomorrow, luck will not be enough. You must learn to see the world as it is, not as you wish it to be." Alara nodded, understanding the weight behind the words. "We will do whatever it takes," she replied. The Deathworlder commander's eyes softened for the briefest moment. "Good, but that will not be enough. Survival is hard, learning is harder. If you are not willing to change, you will die, and I will not save you again." The survivors felt a chill, but there was no malice in her words, only truth. By midday, the Deathworlders had organized the survivors into groups. Some were sent to repair damaged communications, while others helped reinforce the colony's defenses. Alara worked alongside engineers and scientists, trying to adapt to the Deathworlders' methods. It was frustrating at first. They moved faster, thought faster, and expected more than anyone in the colony had been used to giving. One Deathworlder, a tall man with deep scars across his face, approached a group of engineers attempting to repair a damaged energy shield. "You are wasting time," he said sharply. "The shield will fail if you do not understand the pattern of energy flow. Let me show you." Without waiting for permission, he adjusted the machinery with swift, precise movements. Sparks flew, but within minutes the shield glowed steadily with renewed power. The engineers stared in awe. "How did you?" one of them began. The Deathworlder cut him off with a sharp glance. "Experience and necessity, remember it." Alara noticed how the survivors were changing already. Their initial fear of the Deathworlders was giving way to fascination. The humans were learning, adapting, trying to mimic the techniques of those forged by harsher worlds. For the first time, she felt hope that they could survive the next attack. As the day passed, the Deathworlders conducted exercises with the survivors. They taught them to move silently, to use cover, and to anticipate enemy tactics. At first, the humans were clumsy and hesitant. Weapons were handled awkwardly, movements were slow, and fear often made them freeze. But the Deathworlders were patient, harsh, and unyielding. Every mistake was pointed out, every weakness highlighted, not to humiliate but to ensure survival. Alara joined a training session carrying a lightweight energy rifle. A young Deathworlder with golden-brown skin observed her stance. "Too stiff," he said. "Relax, move with the weapon, not against it. Flow like the wind, strike like the mountain." Alara tried again. Her first attempt failed. The alien-like dummies they practiced on remained unharmed. But after several attempts, she began to understand. Movement, rhythm, focus, survival was more than strength. It was anticipation, adaptation, and resilience. By sunset, the colony had transformed. Temporary barriers now lined the streets. Energy turrets hummed softly, scanning the skies. Humans who had been trembling in fear hours ago were now moving with cautious confidence. The Deathworlders had turned panic into preparation. But even as they trained, the threat of the aliens loomed. Scouts reported minor attacks, small, fast ships trying to test the colony's defenses. Each time, the Deathworlders countered with precise, overwhelming force. Their tactics were brutal in efficiency. They did not hesitate or negotiate. They adapted instantly, learning the alien strategies and exploiting weaknesses humans had barely noticed. Alara watched from the command center as a small squadron of alien scouts approached. The Deathworlders were already in position, moving with almost uncanny coordination. The battle was over before the humans could fully comprehend it. The aliens fled, leaving the colony untouched, their pride wounded. "This is how it will always be," one Deathworlder said, standing beside Alara. "The universe does not forgive weakness. You have survived today. Tomorrow you must be stronger. You must think like us, fight like us, adapt like us, or you will die." Alara nodded again, feeling the truth in every word. She realized that the Deathworlders were not just fighters. They were teachers, showing humanity what it meant to endure, to adapt, and to thrive in a universe that showed no mercy. That night, the survivors gathered around a fire pit in the central courtyard, sharing rations and water. The Deathworlders joined them silently, observing but allowing the humans their moment of comfort. Alara sat among her team, exhausted but alert. Corin leaned close. "Do you think we can really do this? Learn to survive like them?" Alara looked up at the stars. The same stars that had seemed empty and cold yesterday now felt different. "We have to," she said. "If we don't, no one else will, but we can. We have to try." "Look at them. They survived worlds designed to kill. If we can learn even a fraction of what they know, we will survive." The Deathworlders remained silent, but Alara felt their approval. It was not given freely. It was earned through action, through determination, and through willingness to change. In the darkness, the survivors began to talk quietly about their families, about Earth, about the worlds they had left behind. They began to see the Deathworlders not as monsters or warriors from harsh worlds, but as examples of humanity at its most extreme, adaptable, strong, and unyielding. For the first time since the attack, the survivors slept without fear of immediate death. But the lessons of the day lingered in their minds. The universe was dangerous, and the Deathworlders had shown them that survival required more than hope. It required strength, intelligence, and adaptability. Alara stayed awake a little longer, watching the Deathworlders move silently around the camp, checking barricades, listening for any sign of danger. She realized that these humans were not like any she had known before. They had been forged by worlds that demanded more than ordinary life could give. Yet they had chosen to answer her distress call, to come to the edge of the galaxy and fight for strangers. It was a strange comfort and a stark warning. Humanity was no longer just fragile scientists and engineers. They had allies capable of surviving anything, and they had much to learn. Tomorrow, the training would continue. Tomorrow, they would be tested again. But tonight, the survivors of Erebus 7 felt something they had not felt in a long time. Hope, tempered with determination, and the promise that humans, even in their weakest form, could rise if they were willing to endure and adapt. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the game of survival had only just begun. The calm of the night on Erebus 7 was broken by a distant rumble, like thunder rolling through the void. Commander Alara Dune stirred from her restless sleep and rushed to the observation deck. Outside, the darkness of space was punctuated by sudden streaks of light, alien ships emerging from hidden positions, faster and more numerous than the survivors had expected. "They're back," Corin whispered, his voice tight with fear. "A larger fleet they've learned from yesterday," Alara's jaw clenched. "Then we will show them what we have learned too." The Deathworlders were already mobilizing. Their ships and armored transports moved with a precision that betrayed months, no, years, of training in the harshest conditions. Where humans from the colony hesitated, the Deathworlders acted instantly. Their eyes scanned the void, calculating trajectories, predicting enemy movements before they even occurred. Alara watched a Deathworlder squad deploy small, fast-attack craft, darting between the alien ships. Energy beams flared in the darkness, hitting with unerring accuracy. The aliens responded with volleys of fire, but their attacks were scattered, uncoordinated, and slow compared to the lethal efficiency of the Deathworlders. One of the younger survivors, a technician named Lyra, whispered in awe, They're like shadows." "They know exactly where to strike," Alara nodded, "and that's what we need to learn." On the ground, the colony was not safe. Smaller alien units had slipped through, landing in hidden corners ready to sabotage and ambush. The Deathworlders split their forces, some defending the perimeter, some moving aggressively to intercept intruders. The humans tried to follow orders, but it was difficult. Every movement had to be precise, every decision carefully considered. The Deathworlders moved like a single organism, anticipating the enemy, adjusting instantly, and adapting to changes without hesitation. Alara found herself paired with a Deathworlder named Curran. His skin was weathered and scarred, his movements controlled and fluid. "Follow my lead," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Watch, learn, then act." They moved through the ruins, encountering the first alien skirmish. The humans froze briefly, unaccustomed to the speed and intensity. Curran took out 2 alien drones with precise energy blasts. "Do not hesitate," he barked. "You hesitate, you die." Alara's heart pounded. She fired her weapon, hitting one of the drones. It exploded and the other retreated. It was a small victory, but it filled her with confidence. She realized that fear could be turned into focus, if she could follow the example of the Deathworlders. Meanwhile, in the sky, the alien fleet attempted to regroup, but the Deathworlders' tactics made coordination nearly impossible. The humans on the colony watched in awe as small strike teams darted between enemy ships, disabling engines, cutting communications, and striking with precision. Lyra shouted, pointing to the monitor. "Commander, look." "They're using the terrain, space debris, asteroid fields to confuse the aliens." Alara leaned forward. "That's what we need to do, adapt, use the environment. We cannot match them ship for ship, but we can fight smart." She realized that this was more than a battle of strength. It was a battle of minds, strategy, and adaptability. The Deathworlders had mastered it through survival in worlds where every decision could mean life or death. Hours passed. The battle raged across multiple fronts, space, ground, and the colony's own structures. The Deathworlders remained calm, methodical, and relentless. The humans began to learn. They followed instructions better, moved with more confidence, and began to anticipate enemy strategies. Alara noticed subtle changes in her own team. Corin, who had been nervous and hesitant, now moved swiftly, his hands steady as he operated a turret. Lyra, once quiet and timid, now gave suggestions, pointing out weaknesses in the alien approach. Even the older engineers who had doubted their survival yesterday were now active participants, improvising and adapting as they learned from the Deathworlders. One of the Deathworlders approached Alara. "You are improving," he said, almost approvingly. "But do not forget, this is only the beginning. Adaptation must be constant. The enemy will not stop, and neither can you." Alara nodded. She understood now that survival was not just about fighting. It was about learning, changing, and evolving with every challenge. By midday, the tide of battle began to shift. Alien attacks became less coordinated as the Deathworlders exploited their weaknesses. Strike teams disabled power sources on enemy ships, forcing them to retreat or face destruction. Ground forces secured the perimeter, driving away intruders with well-placed ambushes. The humans of Erebus 7 were no longer merely survivors. They were participants in the defense, adapting, thinking, and acting alongside their Deathworlder allies. Each successful maneuver, each well-timed strike, brought confidence and determination. Alara found herself leading a small team to repair a critical energy relay that powered the colony's main defenses. Curran accompanied her, providing guidance but allowing her to make decisions. "Remember," he said, "trust your instincts but trust your team as well. Humans survive together or not at all." The relay was damaged, sparking and smoking. Aliens were approaching, attempting to sabotage it again. Alara focused, moving quickly, following Curran's example. With precise movements, she repaired the relay just as the intruders arrived. The energy shield flared back to life, forcing the aliens to retreat. For the first time, Alara felt the thrill of competence, the understanding that she could fight, survive, and protect her team. As the alien fleet finally began to retreat, the survivors of Erebus 7 gathered in the control room. The monitors showed the enemy ships disappearing into the void. Cheers erupted among the humans, though tempered with exhaustion. The Deathworlders remained calm, scanning for any remaining threats, their discipline unbroken. Alara looked around at her team, sweaty, tired, but alive. She could see the transformation. Fear had been replaced with focus. Doubt had been replaced with confidence. The humans were learning to survive, to adapt, and to fight in ways they never imagined possible. Curran approached her again. "You are improving," he said. "Tomorrow the enemy may return, or something worse may come. You must continue to learn. Humans are strongest when they adapt quickly and work together. Do not forget this." Alara nodded. "We won today, but we will not stop. We will be ready." That evening, the survivors gathered once more around the fire pit. The day's lessons were discussed quietly. They shared stories of near misses, clever strategies, and small victories. The Deathworlders joined in minimally, but their presence was comforting, a reminder of the strength humans could achieve when shaped by necessity. Lyra turned to Alara. "Do you think we can really survive out here, with them?" Alara smiled faintly. "We have no choice. But look around, you've already changed. Today you fought with skill, not just fear. Tomorrow you will fight even better. Humanity can endure, adapt, and even thrive if we are willing to learn from the strongest among us." The Deathworlders remained silent, but their watchful eyes reflected a rare approval. For the first time, the humans of Erebus 7 realized that the universe, though vast and dangerous, was not entirely hopeless. They had allies who could survive anything, and they were beginning to learn to survive as well. Tomorrow, the challenges would grow. The aliens would likely return with new strategies, and the unknown dangers of uncharted space waited. But today had taught them something invaluable. Adaptation, courage, and unity were the keys to survival. And with the Deathworlders guiding them, humans might not just survive, they might rise stronger than ever. As the night deepened, Alara stood at the edge of the colony, gazing at the stars. Somewhere beyond the visible light, alien forces were plotting, scouting, and preparing. But she no longer felt helpless. She felt determination, strength, and a spark of hope. Humanity was learning, growing, and evolving, and nothing would stop them from fighting for survival. The alien counterattack had been fierce, but it had also been a lesson, one that humans could not afford to ignore. And as the Deathworlders patrolled silently, ever watchful, Alara knew that they were no longer alone. They had allies, teachers, and mentors who had survived the impossible, and they would show humanity the way to endure, adapt, and thrive. The battle had ended, for now. But the war for survival, for growth, and for humanity's place in the galaxy was only just beginning. The first light of Erebus 7 was a dim gray, filtering through the smoke that still clung to the colony from the previous day's battle. Commander Alara Dune moved through the corridors with a sense of purpose. The survivors were no longer just frightened scientists and engineers. They were soldiers in training, learning from the Deathworlders how to survive and fight in a hostile universe. Outside, the Deathworlders were already at work, surveying the perimeter, repairing defenses, and coordinating strategy. Their discipline was flawless, their movements precise. They had taken the lessons of the last encounter and refined them, preparing the colony for the inevitable return of the alien fleet. Alara gathered her team in the command center. Maps of the colony and surrounding space flickered on the screens, showing the positions of alien ships and patrol routes. "The enemy will not give up easily," she said. "They've learned from their mistakes yesterday. We must be ready for anything, but we are no longer helpless. We have allies and we have learned to fight. Today we turn the tide." Lieutenant Corrin nodded, determination in his eyes. "We can do this. We've learned so much already. We can fight smarter now." The Deathworlder commander entered the room, her silver-streaked hair catching the light. She studied the humans carefully, then nodded. "You have improved. You think faster, move faster, but thinking and moving are not enough. You must act as one. The colony is your body. Every person is a part of it. If one fails, all fail. Learn this, and victory is possible." Alara felt the weight of her responsibility. She had to unify her team, teach them to act as a single force, and coordinate with the Deathworlders. The future of the colony depended on it. By mid-morning, the first signs of the alien approach appeared on the sensors. A larger fleet than before moved through the system, faster and more organized. This time, they seemed to anticipate human tactics, adjusting their positions and attacking in waves. The Deathworlders did not panic. They moved with precision, deploying strike teams and defense units simultaneously. Their ships maneuvered to intercept enemy forces, while ground units prepared traps and ambushes. Alara's team was ready this time. They had spent the night training, reviewing strategies, and learning from mistakes. Corrin operated a turret with skill, anticipating enemy movement. Lyra coordinated repairs on the energy shield, ensuring it remained operational under fire. Even the older engineers took positions, handling defensive machinery with focus and determination. Alara herself led a squad on the ground, moving through the ruined streets to intercept alien landing units. Curran, the Deathworlder who had trained her before, guided the team. "Do not rush," he instructed. "Move with purpose, act with precision. The enemy expects chaos. Give them order instead." The aliens struck in waves, but this time humans were ready. They used the terrain, setting up ambushes in the narrow alleys and collapsed buildings. Energy traps and defensive barriers slowed the attackers. The Deathworlders coordinated the movements, ensuring the humans could act effectively without being overwhelmed. Alara watched as a group of alien units approached a strategic control hub. With a signal from her, Corrin fired the turret at the perfect moment, disabling the lead ship. Lyra's team reinforced the shield while the Deathworlders moved in to secure the area. The aliens faltered, unsure how to respond to this coordinated counterattack. "Keep pressure," Curran instructed. "Do not allow them to regroup. Push forward, adapt as needed. Victory is not given, it is taken." As the day progressed, the humans of Erebus 7 began to fight as one. They moved in sync with the Deathworlders, anticipating each other's actions, covering each other's weaknesses, and exploiting the enemy's mistakes. The aliens, once confident, were forced to retreat, suffering losses they had not expected. Alara felt a surge of pride. Her team had learned to survive, to adapt, and to act with courage. They were no longer just scientists and engineers. They were defenders of their colony, capable of standing against a superior force. In the command center, the Deathworlder commander observed the progress silently. After a pause, she spoke to Alara. "You have learned quickly, but do not mistake today for victory. Adaptation must continue. The enemy will return, and they will be smarter. Only those who continue to evolve will survive." Alara nodded. "We understand, and we will continue to learn." By evening, the tide of battle had turned decisively. Alien ships retreated from the immediate vicinity of the colony, regrouping at a distance. Ground units that had attempted to infiltrate the colony were eliminated or forced to flee. The survivors of Erebus 7 moved through the streets, helping injured allies and repairing damage. Alara walked alongside Curran, observing the aftermath. "We've done well," she said. "But the enemy will come again. How do we prepare for that?" Curran's eyes were steady. "By learning faster, acting faster, and thinking smarter. Every battle teaches a lesson. Every mistake is an opportunity to improve. You must embrace this truth. The galaxy does not wait." "Neither can you?" Alara considered his words. She understood that survival was not about winning a single battle. It was about constant growth, adaptation, and determination. The Deathworlders had shown them that humans could endure even the harshest conditions, but it required effort, discipline, and courage. That night, the survivors gathered around the central fire pit. They shared meals, repaired equipment, and discussed strategies. Lyra spoke of clever maneuvers they had used, while Corin highlighted areas where they could improve. Even the engineers contributed, offering ideas for strengthening defenses and improving communication. The Deathworlders observed quietly, offering guidance only when necessary. Their presence was intimidating but also inspiring. The humans were beginning to understand that strength was not just physical, it was mental, strategic, and collective. Alara addressed the group. "Today, we turned the tide. We fought together, adapted together, and survived. But tomorrow, we must continue to improve. The galaxy is vast and dangerous, and the challenges we face will only grow. We have learned that humans can endure, adapt, and rise to any challenge, but only if we work together and continue to learn." The survivors nodded, their faces illuminated by the firelight. For the first time, they truly felt the power of unity and human resilience. They were no longer helpless victims. They were defenders, students of survival, and part of a force capable of standing against even the most dangerous threats. In the darkness beyond the colony, alien ships regrouped, their strategies disrupted by the humans' coordinated counterattacks. They did not expect the level of adaptation and coordination they faced. The Deathworlders' influence was evident. The humans were no longer timid or slow. They were fast, aware, and willing to act decisively. Alara watched the monitors, studying the retreating alien fleet. She realized that the universe was vast and unpredictable, but humanity had potential beyond imagination. The Deathworlders had taught them the first step, to survive against overwhelming odds. Now it was up to them to continue growing, adapting, and preparing for whatever came next. Curran approached her. "You are ready for the next stage," he said. "But remember, rest is temporary. Observation, learning, and adaptation are constant. If you do not continue, the enemy will return stronger and smarter. You must be faster, stronger, and smarter than they can ever anticipate." Alara nodded, feeling the truth of his words deep within. "We will be ready," she said. By the end of the day, Erebus 7 had changed. The colony was no longer just a group of terrified survivors. It had become a fortified, organized, and resilient community. Humans moved with purpose, confidence, and strategy. They had learned from the Deathworlders how to survive, how to fight, and how to think under pressure. Alara walked through the colony streets, observing the humans repairing, training, and preparing. She felt a mixture of pride and determination. They had turned the tide today, but the galaxy would not remain quiet. There were still threats, unknown and dangerous, waiting in the darkness of space. But she knew one thing clearly: humanity had changed. They were no longer helpless. They were learning, adapting, and rising to meet challenges that had once seemed impossible. The Deathworlders remained ever watchful, a reminder of what humans could become. They had survived worlds that would have destroyed ordinary humans. They had come to answer a distress call, and in doing so, they had taught Erebus 7 the true meaning of resilience, adaptation, and strength. The battle may have been won, but the war for survival was only beginning. And for the first time, the humans of Erebus 7 were ready to meet it head-on. The morning sun rose over Erebus 7, casting pale light across the scars of battle. Smoke still lingered in the sky, but the colony had taken on a new life. Survivors moved with purpose, repairing structures, tending to the injured, and reinforcing defenses. The air carried a sense of determination, a quiet confidence born from struggle and victory. Commander Alara Dune walked through the streets, observing the work of her team. Humans who had once cowered in fear now moved with steady hands and watchful eyes. Corin coordinated a repair squad, Lyra directed the energy shield reinforcements, and even older engineers contributed to fortifying structures and devices. Every person had found their place, acting as a part of a greater whole. Alara paused for a moment, taking a deep breath. "We've changed," she whispered to herself. "We're not the same as we were when the attack first began." The Deathworlders patrolled the perimeter silently. They had worked tirelessly to teach, to lead, and to fight alongside the humans. Yet their work was far from over. Their presence was both a comfort and a warning. Humans could survive, but only if they continued to learn and adapt. The Deathworlder commander approached Alara, her gaze steady. "You have done well. Today the enemy has been repelled and your people have learned much, but do not think this is the end. Survival is continuous, growth is constant. The galaxy does not rest." Alara nodded. "We understand, and we will not stop. We've learned to fight, to adapt, and to work together. We will continue to grow stronger, just as you have shown us." The commander's eyes softened slightly. "Then you may be more than survivors. You may become something the galaxy will respect, and perhaps fear." The humans gathered for a council meeting to discuss the colony's future. The discussion was no longer dominated by fear or panic. Instead, strategy, defense, and long-term planning were the focus. They reviewed maps of space, assessed the strength of their defenses, and considered future threats. Alara spoke to the group. "We have survived because we acted, adapted, and learned. But the galaxy is larger than any one colony. We must prepare for the unknown. The lessons we have learned from the Deathworlders must become part of who we are. Survival requires constant vigilance, constant growth, and constant courage." The humans listened intently. For the first time, they felt the weight of their own potential. They were no longer passive victims. They were a force to be reckoned with. Outside, the sky was alive with activity. Alien scouts had begun to appear on the edges of the system, testing the defenses once more. But this time, the humans were ready. They had learned to anticipate movements, coordinate attacks, and use the environment to their advantage. Alara led a strike team alongside Curran and other Deathworlders. They moved through the ruined streets, coordinating with ground units and turrets. The alien scouts attempted to infiltrate the colony, but every step they took was met with careful countermeasures. The humans acted decisively, cutting off escape routes and disabling enemy equipment. One alien unit, faster than the others, tried to bypass the defenses. Lyra spotted it on the monitor and shouted a warning. Corin fired the turret, striking the target precisely. The alien faltered, then retreated. The humans had learned not just to survive, they had learned to anticipate, act, and win. Alara felt a surge of pride. Her team had transformed from frightened survivors into capable defenders. Each action, each decision was made with confidence and purpose. Humanity was no longer fragile. It was strong, adaptable, and relentless. The Deathworlders observed quietly, their expressions unreadable. They did not need to intervene as often now. The humans were taking initiative, thinking strategically, and acting with discipline. Alara realized that this was the greatest lesson the Deathworlders had imparted. Survival was not just about fighting. It was about thinking, adapting, and becoming stronger with every challenge. As the day progressed, the alien forces gradually withdrew. They had tested the colony's defenses and found themselves outmatched. The humans of Erebus 7, guided and shaped by the Deathworlders, had proven themselves capable of defending their home. Alara gathered her team once more. "Today we have shown that humans can rise to any challenge," she said. "We fought together, adapted together, and succeeded together. But we must remember, this is only the beginning. The universe is vast, and there will be more threats. We are stronger now, but we cannot stop learning, training, and growing." Her words were met with nods and murmurs of agreement. The survivors had grown confident, not arrogant. They understood that survival required humility, effort, and constant vigilance. By evening, the colony was quiet once more. Fires had been extinguished, alarms silenced, and the air was calm. The humans gathered in the central courtyard, sharing meals and stories of the day's victories. They laughed quietly, a sound that had been absent for far too long. Hope, once a fragile ember, now burned brightly. The Deathworlders joined them minimally, sitting on the edges, observing, and occasionally offering advice. Their presence was a reminder of the strength humans could achieve and the resilience they had gained. Alara walked among her people, watching them interact. She saw the change clearly. Fear had been replaced by confidence, hesitation replaced by action, and doubt replaced by determination. The humans of Erebus 7 had grown into something greater than they had ever imagined. Curran approached her quietly. "You have done well," he said. The colony is stronger, the people are learning. You have begun to understand what we have always known. Humanity can survive anything. But remember, this is just one victory. The galaxy is full of challenges. You must continue to grow. Ilara nodded. We will, and we will not forget the lessons you have taught us. Night fell over the colony, but the sense of vigilance remained. Patrols continued along the perimeter, repairs continued in the streets, and training exercises continued for those who were ready. The humans had learned that survival required more than strength. It required teamwork, strategy, and constant adaptation. From the observation deck, Ilara gazed at the stars. Somewhere beyond, alien fleets were regrouping, plotting, and preparing, yet she did not feel fear. She felt readiness. Humanity had changed. They were no longer helpless. They were defenders, strategists, and survivors capable of rising to any challenge. She thought of the Deathworlders, those humans forged by worlds harsher than imagination. They had answered a distress call when no one else would. They had taught her people to fight, to survive, and to adapt, and in doing so they had changed the course of the colony's future. Ilara realized something profound. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. Fragile or strong, timid or fierce, humans had the capacity to endure, adapt, and rise. And when they did, they became a force that no one could ignore. The following morning, the Deathworlders prepared to leave. Their work at Erebus 7 had reached a natural conclusion. The humans had learned, adapted, and proven themselves capable of defending their home. The silver-streaked commander approached Ilara one final time. "You have done well," she said. "The colony is prepared, your people have learned, and you have shown that humans can rise to any challenge. Remember this day. Remember that survival requires effort, courage, and adaptation. The galaxy will test you again. Be ready." Ilara nodded, fighting back emotion. "Thank you, we will not forget, and we will continue to grow stronger." The Deathworlders departed, their ships disappearing into the void. The humans of Erebus 7 watched silently, a mixture of respect and awe in their hearts. They were no longer simply survivors. They were a new kind of humanity, tempered by struggle, strengthened by guidance, and ready for whatever the universe could throw at them. In the days that followed, the colony flourished. Repairs were completed, defenses strengthened, and routines established. Humans moved with confidence, carrying the lessons of the Deathworlders into every task. They trained daily, preparing for new threats and adapting to challenges that once would have overwhelmed them. Ilara walked through the colony, observing the transformation. She saw scientists inventing new tools for defense, engineers reinforcing structures, and soldiers moving with precision and coordination. The humans of Erebus 7 had become a community of resilient, capable individuals ready to face the galaxy as one. Corin approached her. "Commander, do you think we could survive anywhere now, on any world?" Ilara smiled faintly. "Yes," she replied. "We have learned that humanity is strongest when we adapt, work together, and never give up. We are no longer fragile. We can survive and we can thrive even in worlds designed to kill us." As the sun set over the colony, Ilara looked to the horizon, the stars stretching endlessly beyond. Somewhere out there, threats waited, but she no longer felt fear. She felt determination, courage, and hope. Humanity had been tested and had risen stronger than ever. The distress call had been answered in ways no one had expected. The Deathworlders had come, fought, and taught. And in doing so, they had left behind a new kind of human, resilient, adaptable, and unbreakable. Erebus 7 would no longer be remembered as a fragile colony on the edge of space. It would be known as a place where humanity learned to survive, to fight, and to rise. And in the hearts of those who had lived through it, a new truth burned brightly. Humans could endure anything, and when they did, the universe would take notice.